Hello everyone at 1995, here with a new fanfiction for you all. It is called Attack on Prime. From the title you guys could picture it a crossover with Transformers Prime with Attack on Titan. I do hope you enjoy this wonderful fanfic, and I do not own this fanfic, and I give full credit to Melashade on fanfiction.net. Now to the story. A new world. In order to protect both the Allspark and secure Unicron's defeat, it was necessary for me to empty the vessel's contents, Optimus explained as he stood before the Autobots with the sun rising behind him. Into where? Bumblebee asked. Optimus looked down at his chest. The matrix of leadership, as such. My own spark can no longer be separated from the multitude of others within me. Are you telling us that you are now, one with the Allspark? Ratchet asked in shock and disbelief. That's what you say when someone kicks the Smokescreen tried to joke, but then looked at his leader's disbelief. To not return the Allspark to the well, Optimus continued, would be to prevent future generations of new life from existing on Cybertron. My quest must be completed. Optimus, I didn't return to save a life, only to lose the one I care most about, Ratchet said, his voice sounding broken. Ratchet's restored planets. He'll find a way to save you, Bulkhead reassured. We can turn to Vector Sigma, just like we did before, RC suggested, hoping that would be a solution. Because the Matrix must now be relinquished with the Allspark, it cannot be restored or passed down to another. But while this very well marked the end of the Age of Primes, leadership can be earned, with or without the Matrix. And in my view, you have each acted as a Prime, Optimus stated. Well, I never really had the best role models, Knockout smiled sheepishly. As even Megatron has demonstrated on this day, Optimus continued. Every sentient being possessed the capacity for change. Optimus activated the jet wings on his back. I only ask of this of you fellow Autobots. Keep fighting the noblest of fights. You can count on us to keep the peace, Bumblebee reassured. Optimus smiled at his team for the last time. The jet wings on his back created power, and Optimus flew high into the high. The Autobots watched in sadness as Optimus turned around and flew down towards the core of their planet, to Primus himself. As Optimus saw Primus awaiting him, he opened his chest, revealing the matrix of leadership. As he was almost to the core, he began to think to himself. He was happy. He was happy that the fighting was finally over. He can die happy knowing that he brought back and saved the planet that gave him life. He knew his comrades would keep the peace. He had complete faith in them. He closed his eyes and a small smile formed on his face as he let warm light consume him. Optimus groaned as he slowly opened his optics. His vision was blurry, but when it cleared up, he was looking up at the clear blue sky with a couple of small clouds. Optimus widened his eyes in shock. Cybertron didn't have any clouds last time he checked. Matter of fact, what was he even doing? Alive. He was supposed to be dead, or with Primus in the core, with his body gone. Optimus tried to get up, but his helm felt like it was spinning. He slowly got up. To prevent any way of making the headache worse, he rubbed his helm as he groaned in slight pain, but he suddenly noticed something off. He looked at his hand and arm and widened his optics. It wasn't his form that he was in when he was back on Cybertron. His arm actually looked like his old form. He looked over at the rest of his body. He didn't look robust at all. He looked slim and he didn't feel any weight on his back. Was he? Optimus heard a swishing like sound and looked over to see a river in front of him. He walked over to it, and kneeled down to see his reflection. He really was in his old form. But why? But he suddenly realized something. There were no rivers on Cybertron. He looked around the area to see lush green grass surrounding him. There were small flowers and hills near him and the river. There were patches of trees in different areas farther away from him. He could see mountain over at the edges of the area littered with trees. Why was he on Earth? Earth was millions of miles away from Cybertron. Why was he even here? He stood up and walked over the river, deciding to investigate the area for himself and find out where he was. Optimus continued walking around for about half an hour, in human time. The only thing he saw was green grass and dark green pointed trees. He hasn't seen any human activity ever since he arrived here. Was this even Earth? Usually, you at the least see one human driving around in an automobile. Something wasn't right. Optimus could feel it. Something was horribly off about this place. Optimus then noticed something off into the distance. It looked like it was a building. Humans must be in that area, Optimus assumed. Knowing that humans would be scared of seeing a walking metal titan, Optimus decided to try something else. He transformed into his old alt mode, a red and cobalt semi-truck. He drove towards the buildings. He expected there to be human activity but found out that the place was abandoned. He transformed into his bipedal mode and looked through the windows. There was no one inside. He could see spider webs forming through old shelves and broken cabinet. He was slightly shocked to see a wild animal inside, whimpering under the shelf. Optimus got up and looked at the rest of the buildings. Some of them were still standing. Others were destroyed by some unknown force. He made the assumption that it was some kind of military weapon. But then he also noticed something else about the house. They looked outdated. The houses he's seen the first time he came to Earth looked modernized, new. These houses just looked outdated and old-fashioned. Optimus grimaced. Something was definitely wrong. Was he in the past? Did humans exist in this area? He suddenly heard a growling noise that sounded almost human. Optimus looked over the houses to see a human, Optimus questioned. At least it looked like it. But it was his height. The so-called human wasn't wearing any clothes. It didn't have any reproductive organs, either. It was just walking around the area with almost nothing to do. Optimus noticed that the human had a disturbing smile on its face. Optimus recoiled his gun and stood up from behind the house. He had no need to attack, no matter how strange the creature was. He suddenly heard a growling-like noise and looked down to see a smaller version of the creature, crouching down like an animal. It roared as it jumped to attack him. Optimus ducked and turned to see the creature attacking the taller one. Optimus transformed his hand into a gun and fired at the smaller creature. The creature's body rolled off the larger one and crashed into a house while the larger creature got up. Optimus looked in confusion as the larger creature's face began to regenerate before it got up and walked off. Optimus walked over to the now dead creature and observed it closely. He could tell that the Energon was eating away at the flesh. Energon was never compatible with anything carbon-based, as he learned in the past. But steam rose from the thing, and the only thing left of it was bones. It was gone in a matter of seconds. What is this? Optimus asked himself. This can't be Earth. This couldn't be. This was. Optimus suddenly heard thunder as he saw golden lighting coming down from the sky from a faraway distance. He immediately decided on what to do. Optimus transformed into his alt mode and drove off towards the source. Oren Yeager suddenly heard a thunderous sound from behind him. He turned around as was now face to face with the colossal titan. Everyone else that was there was in shock. They had probably never seen a real titan up close, but Oren knew what it was. But why was the titan back? Oren gasped as a hot steam knocked everyone off of the top of wall rose. The colossal titan kicked a hole through the gate. The hell? Oren gasped as he was spinning in midair. He regained his focus and activated his 3D maneuver gear and hooked himself to the wall. Everyone else followed the same suite, however. Samuel got knocked unconscious by some falling rocks. Samuel, Connie cried. Sasha unhooked herself and chased after Samuel. Sasha, Mina called out. Sasha didn't listen as she continued running. She used one hook from her gear to pierce Samuel by the leg while she used her other hook to hook onto the wall. "Samuel, don't move," Sasha's instructed, but Samuel was still unconscious. "That was close," Oren breathed. His relief was short-lived as he looked down to see a large hole in the gate. Connie and Thomas looked in shock and horror as well. The gate's broken again, Oren thought. The Titans will get in again. The same thing was going to happen again. People were going to die as Titans would continue to take over while Rose. Humanity was going to suffer once again. He remembered his mother being picked up by a Titan and eaten in half right before his eyes. "I'll kill them all. Every single one of them," Oren swore. "Every fucking dead one," he muttered to himself. "Ready the artillery. 4 groups," Oren instructed as he pulled out his blades. "Get ready for battle." He unhooked himself from where he was and swung around the wall to the top, using the gas to propel him. "The target's right in front of us. It's the Colossal Titan. This is our chance. Don't let it slip away." Oren launched himself into the air and landed on the top of the wall, using his gas tanks to slow his fall. He raised his head. It glared directly at the Colossal Titan. "Hello there," Oren greeted dangerously. "It's been 5 years." Oren charged at the Titan standing before him as he raised his hand. Oren noticed the Titan's movements and realized that the Titan was aiming for him. Oren propelled himself into the air as the Titan was destroying the cannons at the top of the wall. Oren hooked onto the muscle of the Titan as he swung around to get a better look at what it was aiming for. Oren slightly widened his eyes as he saw their weapons falling to the ground. He was after the fixed cannons, Oren thought, so it wasn't just a coincidence that he targeted the gate. He's actually intelligent. The Colossal Titan looked at Oren and tried to grab. Oren snapped out of his thought and hooked onto the upper arm. He propelled himself forward as he tried to reach for the nape of the neck. "Still, this is our chance. This is the only one that can destroy the gates," Oren thought. It was probably a once-in-a-lifetime chance. He was the reason his mom was gone and his dad disappearing. He was not going to let him get away. He ran up the arm towards the Titan's neck. "If I can stop him," Oren jumped off of the arm and hooked himself onto the nape of the neck. He practically flew forward as he spun around and saw his target. "Too slow," he yelled. "You're mine." He swung his blades back, ready to cut the neck, but he was pushed back by clouds of hot steam. "It burns," he grunted as he shut his eye. He slowly opened his eyes and realized he was still hooked on. He pressed the button at the handle of his blade, and he went forward. "Go," he cried out as he swung his blades, but when the steam cleared up, the Titan was gone. Oren widened his eyes in shock. "Did I miss?" He realized that he was falling and hooked himself onto the top of the wall and landed on the side. He looked down at the ground to see the footprints and the hole in the wall. No. The Colossal Titan disappeared, Oren realized. "Oren," Thomas called out from the top of the wall. "Did you defeat it?" "No," Oren answered. It was the same as 5 years ago. He appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as suddenly. Oren propelled himself to the top of the wall and walked up to Tomas and Connie. "I'm sorry." He apologized. "I let him get away." "Why are you apologizing?" Thomas asked. The rest of us couldn't even move. "Hey, there's no time for discussion." Connie cut off. "The wall's been breached. If we don't patch it fast, the Titans will get in like before." "What are you doing?" a soldier demanded as he appeared on the wall next to them. "The contingency plan for the Colossal Titan has already begun. Get to HQ. Anyone who made contact with it, don't forget to report." "Yes, sir." They saluted. "Best of luck to the advance team," Connie added. Oren looked back at the hole in the wall and to the fields of his original home. This couldn't be happening. He suddenly noticed something off into the distance. Something like a mix of 2 different colors. "Oren, let's go," Thomas called out as he jumped down the wall. Got it, Oren said. He looked back one more time before he followed Thomas and Connie. Optimus screeched to a stop and transformed into his bipedal mode as he looked at a wall. It was damaged at the top and there was a hole inside. He could hear screams, human screams, from the inside as he saw these creatures walking towards the hole that was currently guarded by a net. Optimus then came to the conclusion, these creatures were after humans. They killed humans. Optimus saw cannons lined up against the wall, aiming for the creatures that were walking to the gate. He immediately took cover as the cannons were fired, blowing off the creatures' heads and vital organs. He thought they had killed them. But he widened his optics as he saw the creatures standing back up. Their heads and body parts were slowly regenerating and they continued towards their goal. They regenerate, Optimus realized, remembering the small creature that was moving on his blade after he stabbed it in the chest. These things could wipe out everyone. Optimus transformed into his alt mode and drove towards the gate while dodging cannon fire. He wasn't going to let them die. Just follow your training. Split in 2 groups. A commander ordered to the fresh trainees, under Garrison's orders, you will resupply combatants, relay orders, and kill Titans. Garrison intercept forces will form the vanguard. Trainees, led by the supply team, will compromise the middle guard. The Garrison's elite forces will form the rear guard. Also, messengers report that the last team has been neutralized. Everyone began to mutter in shock as the commander continued speaking. The outer wall has been breached, and Titans have entered the city. In other words, the armored Titan may appear at any time to destroy the inner gate. No way, a soldier said. Well everyone, I have to put it to an end to this story, but don't worry, there is going to be part 2 of chapter 1. I do hope you enjoy this video, and remember, I do not own the Transformers Prime series or this story or the Attack of Titans series. They go to their respective owners, and I give full credit to the author Melashade Forever. Let's give her a big hand. She on fanfiction.net if you guys want to look her up, and remember, and if you like this channel, please subscribe and hit that like button and leave a comment down below. This is Nat1995 signing off.